always tormented other children at school, always chased us who were different, and about how when he was an adult he became a soldier and went off to far-off lands because he thirsted for war, and how he met a friend there, his first real friend, about how everyone who saw it said that it changed him, brought out something good in him. This friend was also a soldier, but another sort of soldier without that thirst. They became inseparable. Sam said his friend was the bravest warrior he had ever seen. They went home together, and his friend introduced Sam to the girl he knew. She saw something in Sam, and for a brief moment, Leonard and Maud also got to see a glimpse of someone else, a Sam beyond the darkness. We thought she'd save him. We all hoped so much that she'd save him, because it would have been like a fairy tale, and when one has lived in the dark for so long, it's so very difficult not to believe in fairy tales, Maud admits while Leonard clasped her hand. But then the circumstances of life came up, Leonard says, like in so many fairy tales, and maybe it wasn't Sam's fault, or maybe it wasn't entirely Sam's fault. Or maybe it was entirely Sam's fault. Or maybe it's for people much wiser than I to decide whether every person is completely responsible for their actions or not. But Sam went back to the wars, and he came home even darker. He used to be an idealist, Maud interjects gloomily. Despite all that hatred and anger, he was an idealist. That's why he wanted to be a soldier. And then Elsa asks if she can borrow Maud and Leonard's computer. If you have a computer, I mean, she adds apologetically, because she thinks about the palaver she had with Wolfhart when she asked him the same thing. Of course we have a computer, said Leonard, puzzled. Who doesn't these days? Quite right, thinks Elsa, and decides to bring it up with Wolfhart next time he turns up, if there is another time. Leonard leads her past the bedroom. In the little study at the far end of the flat, he explains that their computer is very old, of course, so she has to have a bit of patience, and on a table in there is the most unwieldy computer Elsa has ever seen, and at the back of the actual computer is a gigantic box, and on the floor is another box. What's that? Said Elsa, pointing at the box on the floor. That's the actual computer, said Leonard. And what about that? Asked Elsa, and points at the other box. That's the monitor, said Leonard, and presses a big button on the box on the floor. Then adds, it'll take a minute or so before it starts, so we'll have to wait a bit. A minute? Elsa burst out and mumbles, wow, it really is old. But when the old computer has eventually started, and Leonard, after many ifs and buts, has got her onto the internet and she has found what she is looking for, she goes back into the kitchen and sits opposite Maud. So, it means it's a dreamer, an idealist, I mean. It means a dreamer. Yes, you could probably say that, said Maud with a friendly smile. It's not that you could say it. It's what it actually means, Elsa corrects. And then Maud nods even friendlier, and then she tells the story of the idealist who turned into a cynic. And Elsa knows what that means, because the teacher at Elsa's preschool once called Elsa that. There was an uproar when Elsa's mom found out about it, but the teacher stood his ground. Elsa can't remember the exact details, but she thinks it was that time she told the other preschool pupils how sausages were made. She wonders if she's thinking about these things as a kind of defense mechanism, for this tale really has too much reality in it. It often happens when you're almost 8, that there's just too much reality. Maud describes how Sam went off to a new war. He had his friend with him, and for several weeks they had been protecting a village from attack by people who, for some reason unknown to Maud, wanted to kill all who lived there. In the end, they received an order to abandon the place, but Sam's friend refused. He convinced Sam and the rest of the soldiers to stay until the village was safe, and took as many injured children as they could fit into their cars to the nearest hospital many miles away, because Sam's friend knew a woman who worked as a doctor there, and everyone said she was the most skillful surgeon in the whole world. They were on their way through the desert when they hit the mine. The explosion was merciless. There was rain of fire and blood. Did anyone die? Asked Elsa, without really wanting to know the answer. All of them, says Leonard, without wanting to speak the words out loud. except for Sam's friend and Sam himself. Sam was unconscious, but his friend dragged him out of the fire. Sam was the only one he had time to save. The friend had shrapnel on his face and terrible burns, but when he heard the shots and realized they'd been ambushed, he grabbed his rifle and ran into the desert and didn't stop firing until only he and Sam lay there in the desert, panting and bleeding. The people who had been shooting at him were boys, children, just like the children the soldiers had just tried to save. Sam's friend could see that as he stood over their dead bodies with their blood on his hands, and he was never the same again. Somehow he managed to carry Sam through the desert and didn't stop until he came to the hospital, and Elsa's grandmother came running towards them. She saved Sam's life. He would always have a slight limp in one leg, but he would survive, and was at that hospital that Sam started smoking Granny's brand of cigarettes. Granny also apologized about that in the letter. Maud carefully places the photo album in front of Elsa as if it were a small creature with feelings. Points at a photo of the boy with the syndrome's mother. She's standing between Leonard and Maud and wearing a bridal gown, and they are laughing, all three of them. Thinks Sam's friend was in love with her, but he introduced her to Sam and they fell in love instead. Oh, sorry. I was just making sure I processed everything. I'm tired. I woke up from a nap and then I was sick again. They were like brothers, those two. Can you imagine? I think his friend was just too kind to mention his own feelings. Do you understand? Elsa understands. Maud smiles. He was always such a soft boy, Sam's friend. Always thought he had a soul of a poet. They were so different, him and Sam. It's so terribly difficult to imagine he would do all that he did to save Sam's life. That the place they were in could have made him such a fearsome... She is silent for a long time, overcome with sorrow. Warrior, she whispers, turning the page of the photo album. Elsa doesn't need to see the photo to know who it's of. It's Sam. He's standing somewhere in a desert wearing a uniform and supporting himself on crutches. Next to him stands Elsa's granny with a stethoscope around her neck, and between them stands Sam's best friend, Wolfheart. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, that's just like a huge plot twist. That's just crazy. Crazy, I tell you. Spruce, chapter 25. Oh, why do I feel like I have an eyelash in my eye? It was cloud animals that saved the Chosen One when the shadows came in secret to the kingdom of Mimavas to kidnap him. For a while, Mimavas is made of fantasy. Mimavas is made of love. Without love, there is no music, and without music, there is no Mimavas. And the Chosen One was the most beloved in the whole kingdom. So if the shadows had taken him, it would have eventually have led to the downfall of the land of Almost Awake. Mimavas falls, and Mirvas falls, and if Mirvas falls, then Miamas falls, and if Miamas falls, then Mayadakas falls, and if Mayadakas falls, then Mifloris falls, because without music there can't be any dreams, and without dreams there can't be any fairy tales, and without fairy tales there can't be any courage, and without courage no one could be able to bear any sorrows, and without music and dreams and fairy tales and courage and sorrow there would only be one kingdom left in the land of Almost Awake, Mimbaltalos. But Mimbaltalos can't live alone because the warriors there would be worthless without the other kingdoms because they'd no longer have anything to fight for. Granny also stole that from Harry Potter, that bit about having something to fight for. But Elsa forgave her because it was quite good. You're allowed to mix stuff if it's good. And it was the cloud animals that saw the shadows stealing along between the houses of Mimavas, and they did what cloud animals do. They swept down like arrows and up again like mighty ships. They transformed themselves into dromedaries and apples and old fishermen of cigars, and the shadows threw themselves into the trap, because soon they didn't know who or what they were chasing, and then all at once the cloud animals disappeared, and one of them bore away the Chosen One, all the way to Miyamaz, and that was how the war without end began. And if it hadn't been for the cloud animals, it would have ended there that day, and the shadows would have won. Elsa's in the land of almost awake all night. She can get there whenever she wants now, as if it had never been a problem. She doesn't know why, but assumes it's because she has nothing to lose anymore. The Shadow's in the real world now. Elsa knows who he is. She knows who Granny was and who Wolfheart is and how it all hangs together. She's not frightened anymore. She knows that the war will come. It's inevitable, and the mere fact of knowing it makes her strangely calm. The land of Almost Awake is not burning as it was in the dream. Wherever she rides, it's as beautiful and tranquil as ever. Only when she wakes up does she realize that she is avoided venturing into Miyamaz. She rides to all 5 other kingdoms, and even the ruins where Miyabatala's used to be before the war without end, but never to Miyamaz, because she doesn't want to know if Granny is there, doesn't want to know if Granny isn't there. Dad is standing in the doorway for her bedroom. At once she's wide awake, as if someone had just squirted menthol up her nose, which, just as an aside, works insanely well if you want to wake someone up. You'd know that if you have the kind of Granny Elsa had. What's the matter? Is Mum ill? Is it Haffy? Dad looks dubious and slightly nonplussed. Elsa blinks away her sleep and remembers that Mum was at a meeting at the hospital because she tried to wake Elsa up before she left, but she pretended to be asleep. And George is in the kitchen because he came in a bit earlier to ask if she wanted any eggs, but she pretended to be asleep. So she looks at her father with confusion. It's not your day for you to be with me, is it? Dad clears his throat. Looks like Dad's due, and it suddenly dawns on them that something they used to do because it was important to their daughters has now become one of those things their daughters do because it's important to their dads. It's a very thin line to cross. Neither dads nor their daughters ever forget when they do cross it. Elsa counts the days in her head, instantly remembers, and instantly apologizes. She was right. It isn't Dad's day, but she was wrong because today's the day before Christmas Eve, which is the terrible thing to forget, because the day before Christmas Eve is her and Dad's day. Christmas Tree Day. As the name subtly suggests, this is the day that Elsa and Dad buy their Christmas tree, a plastic one, obviously, because Elsa refuses to buy a real tree. But because Dad enjoys the annual tradition so much, Elsa insists on buying a new plastic tree every year. Some people find it a bit of an odd tradition, but Granny used to say that every child of divorce has the right to get a bit bloody eccentric now and then. Mom, of course, was very angry at Granny about the whole plastic tree thing because she likes the smell of a real spruce tree, and always said that the plastic was something Granny had duped Elsa about, because it was Granny who had told Elsa about the Christmas tree dance in Miyamaz, but no one who's heard that story wants to have a spruce tree that someone has amputated and sold into slavery. In Miyamaz, spruce trees are living, thinking creatures with, considering that they're coniferous trees, an unaccountably strong interest in home design. They don't live in the forest, but in the southern districts of Miyamaz, which have become quite trendy in recent years, and they often work in advertising industry and wear scarves indoors. And once every year, soon after the first snowfall has fallen, all the spruce trees gather in the big square below the castle and compete for the right to stay in someone's house over Christmas. The spruce trees choose the houses, not the other way around, and the choice is decided by a dance competition. In the olden days, they used to have duels about it, but spruce trees are generally such bad shots that it used to take forever. So now they do spruce dancing, which looks a bit unusual because spruce trees don't have feet. And if non-spruce trees wants to imitate a dancing spruce tree, they just jump up and down. It's quite handy, and particularly on a crowded dance floor. Elsa knows that because when Dad drinks a glass and a half of champagne on New Year's Eve, he sometimes does a spruce dance in the kitchen with Lizette, but for Dad it's just known as dancing. Sorry, Dad. I do know what day it is, Elsa yells, hopping into her jeans, getting to her sweater and jacket, and running into her hall. I just have to do one thing first. Elsa hid the worst in Renault last night. She brought it down a bucket of cinnamon buns from Maud and told it to hide under the blankets in the back seat if anyone came down into the garage. You have to pretend you're a pile of clothes or a TV or something, suggested Elsa, though the worst didn't look entirely convinced. So Elsa had to go and get a sack of dreams from Maud, after which the worst gave in and crept under the blankets. Didn't look much like a TV, though. Elsa said goodnight, sneaked back upstairs, and stood in the dark outside the flat where the mother and the boy with the syndrome live. She was going to ring at the door, but she couldn't quite make herself do it. They don't want to hear any more stories, didn't want to know about shadows and darkness, so she just put a letter in the slot in the door and ran away. Their door is locked and shut today. All the other doors, too. Anyone who's awake has left the house. Everyone else is asleep. So Elsa hears Kent's voice several floors up, even though he's whispering, because that's how the acoustics of stairwells work. Elsa knows that because acoustics is a word for the word ajar. She hears Kent whispering, "Yes, I promise I'll be back tonight." But when he comes down the last flight of stairs past the worst in Wolfhard's flats and the boy and the mother's flats, Kent suddenly starts talking in a loud voice and calling, "Yes, Claus, in Frankfurt. Yes, yes, yes." And then he turns around and pretends that he's only just noticed Elsa standing behind him. "What are you doing?" asks Elsa suspiciously. Kent asks Claus to hold the line. As you do where there is actually no Claus at all on the line. He is wearing a rugby shirt with numbers and a little man on a horse on his chest. Kent has told Elsa that this sort of shirt costs more than 1,000 kronor, and Granny always used to say that those sorts of shirts were a good thing because horse functioned as the sort of manufacturer's warning that the shirt was highly likely to be transporting a Muppet. "What do you want?" sneers Kent. Elsa stares at him and at the small red bowls of meat that he's shifting down the stairwell. "What are those?" Kent throws out his hands so quickly that he almost throws Claus into the wall. "That hound is still running around here. It reduces the value of the leasehold conversion." Elsa backs away watchfully without taking her eyes off the bowls of meat. Kent seems to realize that he has expressed himself a little clumsily, so he makes another attempt in the sort of voice that men of Kent's age think one must put when talking to girls of Elsa's age so they'll understand. "Britt Marie found dog hairs on the stairs. You understand, darling? We can't have wild animals roving around the building. It reduces the value of the leasehold conversion, you see." He smiles condescendingly. She can see that he's glancing insecurely at his telephone. "It's not like we're going to kill it. It'll just go to sleep for a bit, okay? Now why don't you be a good girl and go home to your mummy?" Elsa doesn't feel so very good, and she doesn't like the way Kent makes quotation marks in the air when he says go to sleep. "Who are you talking on the phone to?" "Claus, a business contract from Germany." "Contact," answers Kent as one does when doing no such thing. "Sure," says Elsa. Kent's eyebrows sink. "Are you giving me attitude?" Elsa shrugs. I think you should run home to your mummy now," Kent repeats, a touch more menacingly. Elsa points at the bowls. "Is there poison in them?" "Listen, girlie, stray dogs are vermin. We can't have vermin running about here and rust heaps down in the garage and all kinds of crap. It'll lower the value, don't you understand? It's better for everyone this way." But Elsa hears something ominous in his voice when he says rust heaps, so she pushes past him and charges down the cellar stairs. Rose opens the door to the garage and stands there with her hands shaking and her heartbeat thumping through her body. She knocks her knees against every step on the way back up. "Where's Renault? What the hell have you done with Renault?" she yells at Kent. She waves her fist at him, but only manages to grab a hold of Claus, so she throws Claus down the cellar stairs to the glass display and plastic cover are smashed and tumble down in a miniature electronic avalanche toward the storage units. "Are you out of your bloody mind, you stupid kid? You know what that telephone cost?" yells Kent, and then he tells her bloody cost 8,000 kronor. Elsa informs him that she couldn't give a damn what it cost, and then Kent informs her with a sadistic gleam in his eyes exactly what he did with Renault. She runs up the stairs to fetch Dad, but stops abruptly on the penultimate floor. Britt Marie is standing in her doorway. She's clasping her hands over her stomach, and Elsa can see that she's sweating. The kitchen behind her smells of Christmas food, and she's wearing her flower print jacket with her large brooch. The pink paintball stain is hardly visible at all. "You mustn't let Kent kill it," pleased Elsa wide-eyed. "Please, Britt Marie, it's my friend." Britt Marie meets her husband for a single fleeting second. There's some humanity in them. Elsa can see that, but then Kent's voice can be heard calling to Britt Marie from the stairwell that she has to bring more poison, and then the normal Britt Marie is back. "Kent's children are coming here tomorrow. They're afraid of dogs," she explains firmly. She straightens out a wrinkle that isn't there on her skirt and brushes something invisible off her floral print jacket. "We're having a traditional Christmas dinner here tomorrow with some normal Christmas food like a civilized family. We're not barbarians, you know." Then she slams the door. Elsa stays where she is and realizes that Dad is not going to be able to solve this because tentativeness is not a very useful superpower in this type of emergency situation. She needs reinforcements. She's been banging on the door for more than a minute before she hears Alf's dragging footsteps. He opens it with a cup of coffee in his hand that smells so strong that she's sure a spoon would get stuck in it. "I'm sleeping," he grunts. "He's killing Renault," sobs Elsa. "Killing? Nothing's going to be killed around here. It's only a bloody car," says Alf, swallowing a mouthful of coffee and yawns. "It's not just a car, it's Renault." "Who the hell has told you he's going to kill Renault?" "Kent!" Elsa hasn't even had time to explain what's in Renault's backseat before Alf has put down the coffee cup, stepped into her shoes, and set off down the stairs. She hears Alf and Kent roaring at each other so terribly that she has to cover her ears. She can't hear what they're saying, except that it's a lot of swear words, and Kent shouts something about leaseholds and how one can't have rest heaps parked in the garage because then people will think the house is full of socialists. Which is Kent's way of saying bloody idiots. Elsa understands, and then Alf shouts, "Bloody idiot!" which is his way of saying exactly that, because Alf is not big on complicating things. And then Alf comes stamping up the stairs again, wild-eyed, muttering, "The bastard got someone to tow the car away. Is your dad here?" Elsa nods. Alf storms up the stairs without a word, and a few moments later, Elsa and Dad are sitting in a taxi, even though Dad doesn't want to at all. I'm not sure I want to do this," says Dad. Someone has to bloody drive the damn Renault home," grunts Alf. "How do we find out where Rent sent it, then?" asks Elsa at the same time that Dad does his best not to look completely tentative. "I've been driving a damn taxi for 30 years, says Alf. "And?" hisses Elsa. "And so I bloody know how to find a Renault that's been towed away." 20 minutes later, they're standing in a scrapyard outside the city, and Elsa's hugging the hood of Renault in the exact same way you hug a cloud animal, with your whole body. She can see that the TV in the back seat is shuffling about, fairly displeased about not being the first to be hugged, but if you're almost 8 and forget to hug a worse than a Renault, it's because you're less worried about the worse than the poor scrapyard worker who happens to find it. Alf and the fairly fat foreman argue for a short while about what's going to cost to take Renault away, and then Alf and Elsa argue for a fairly long time about why she never mentioned that she didn't have a key to Renault. And then the fat man walks around mumbling that he was sure he left his moped here earlier, and where the hell was it now? And then Alf, the fat man, negotiate about what it will cost to tow Renault back to the house, and then Dad has to pay for it all. It's the best present he's ever given Elsa, even better than the red felt tip pin. Alf assures that Renault is parked in Granny's slot in the garage, not in Britt Marie's. When Elsa introduces them to each other, Dad stares at the worst with the expression of someone preparing for a root canal. The worst glares back a bit cocky, too cocky, thinks Elsa, so she hauls it over the coals about whether it's a scrapyard foreman's moped, whereupon the worst stops looking cocky and goes to lie down under the blankets and looks a bit as if it is thinking that if people don't want it to eat mopeds, then people should be more generous with the cinnamon buns. She tells Dad, to his immense relief, that he can go and wait in the alley. Then Elsa and Alf gather all the red food bowls from the stairwell and put them in a big black trash bag. Kent catches them and fumes that the poison bloody cost him 600 kroner. Britt Marie just stands there, and then Elsa goes with Dad to buy a plastic tree, because Britt Marie is wrong. Elsa's family are no barbarians. Anyway, the proper term is barbarians. Because in Myanmar, that is what the spruce trees call those dumb sheep in the real world who chop down living trees and carry them off and sell them into slavery. "I'll give you 300, said Elsa to the man in the shop. "My dear, there's no bargaining in the shop," says the man in the shop in exactly the sort of tone one might expect of men in shops. "It costs 495. "I'll give you 250, the man smiles mockingly. "Now, I'll only give you 200, Elsa informs him. The man looks at Elsa's dad. Dad looks at his shoes. Elsa looks at the man and shakes her head seriously. "My dad is not going to help you. I'll give you 200. The man arranges his face into something that's probably supposed to look like an expression of how you look at children when they're cute but stupid. "This is not how it works, my dear." Elsa shrugs. "What time do you close today?" "In 5 minutes, says the man. "And do you have a big warehouse space here?" "What's that got to do with it?" "I was just wondering." "No, we don't have any warehouse space at all." "And are you open on Christmas Eve?" He pauses. "No." Elsa pouts her lip with a pretend surprise. So if you have a tree here and no hair house, and what day is it again tomorrow? Elsa gets the tree for 200. She gets a box of balcony lights and an insanely big Christmas elk thrown in for the same price. You mustn't go back in and give him any extra money, Elsa warns Dad while he's loading it all into the Audi. Dad sighs. I only did it once, Elsa. On one occasion, and that time you were actually exceptionally unpleasant to the salesman. You have to negotiate. Granny taught Elsa to do that. Dad also used to hate going to the shops with her. Audi stops outside the house as usual. Dad has turned down the volume of the stereo so Elsa doesn't have to listen to his music. Elf comes out to help Dad carry up the box, but Dad insists on carrying it himself because it's tradition that he brings the tree home for his daughter. Before he leaves, Elsa wants to tell him that she'd like to stay with him more after Alfie's been born, but she doesn't want to upset him, so in the end she says nothing. She just whispers, "Thanks for the tree, Dad," and he's happy, and then goes home to Lizette and her children. Elsa stands there watching as he leaves, because no one gets upset if you don't say anything. All almost 8-year-olds know that. Alright, I'm gonna stop it there, because I need to go shopping for a dress. I hope you all have a wonderful night, that you sleep well. Much love. Bye.